Welcome live from the Jersey Shore and also another place virtually. It's the Baseball Insiders Prospect Show with Adam Weinrib and Eric Cole. Thank you for joining us Tuesday afternoon, noon Eastern time, talking another week of minor league baseball action, focusing on a few polarizing prospects who've given us more to think about with their tantalizing hot starts, as well as risers and fallers from the last week of action and a big league promotion for the Oakland A's slugger we talked about. Oh my gosh, Oakland A's slugger, egg on my face. The Sacramento Ath slugger who we talked about on the last show, who we said, hey, they're going to pull the trigger on this. Depends on if they care about winning or what their priorities are. And I guess we don't really know that 100% fully, but we know what choice they made. Here to help me break it all down, as always, is Eric Cole, Fanside at MiLB staff writer. Eric, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I hope you're enjoying your new locale. I am here in the hills of rural Georgia, just enjoying my usual space. But hopefully, you kind of enjoying kind of being in a new locale and having some fun down there. I'm excited to talk about some minor league baseball. This has been kind of a wild start to the minor league season. A lot of folks that we thought were going to be good have been kind of slow to start. Then we've had a few who are just apparently you can't get them out or you can't hit them at all. And there's been some real standout performances, but if you had told me to make a list of 10 guys who I thought were going to be really good and really bad, I would have been very wrong probably to start the season.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's why people should listen to us, the experts in minor league baseball. Yeah, I'm on the road this week, but still pumping out the content. You can see a photo of a crab in my background. That's how you know I'm serious about the beach, because that's where those are found. But hey, if you like the show, you can join us every Tuesday at noon for the Prospect Special. You can join us on the Baseball Insiders Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday, we've got a 1 o'clock Eastern show this week with Robert Murray. Then he's on site at the NFL Draft. We've got an interesting follow show on Friday at 3:30 Eastern. I encourage you to join us for that as well. Getting a little experimental with it. If you like what you see, you can subscribe to us on all podcast platforms or join us in the Discord. That is, you just hit join below this video if you're already subscribed. You can pay a membership fee. You could become either a Rumor Mill member or an all-star tier member. Private Q&As with Robert Murray in the Rumor Mill tier every Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern, though we got to move that again for the NFL Draft, which he is at, because that's a fun thing to do. If you like the content, you can also subscribe to the Moonshot, our weekly baseball email newsletter with the Fanside at MiLB team, including Robert Murray, Eric Cole, myself, break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, behind-the-scenes info. Additionally, the Baseball Insiders feed on fansided.com. That is fansided.com/baseball-insiders is where you get the latest rumors and notes from Robert, humor and insight from yours truly, prospect talk from Eric, and the best of baseball and pop culture from the rest of the MiLB staff writer team. So check that out. When I did this on yesterday's show, Jess Kleinschmidt said it was as weird as watching them stitch the name Saltalamacchia onto the back of Jared Saltalamacchia's curved arched jersey. So if you agree, weigh into the comments. If you like when I just spit out a whole bunch of ad reads up top, let me know personally as well. Go to my personal MySpace account, send me an inbox message. Eric, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. We do want to talk about a couple of polarizing games before we get into just the risers and fallers from the last week, because there are some boom or bust prospects who are booming to start the year, and some of whom are still stuck with their Achilles heels, can't get rid of them, but have to be talked about. And because I am a Yankees man, I have to lead with Spencer Jones, who is leading the Eastern League in home runs with 6. Very good, but also nobody ever said he couldn't hit for power. He's playing stellar center field defense. The base running skills are on display, but this is his second year at AA, and he had a cameo there at the end of 2023 as well. He's batting .236, and he's doing the strikeout thing. 22 in 55 at-bats to start this week of minor league action. Is it even possible at this point to care what he does before he reaches AAA or cuts down on the Ks or both, which feels like a lofty ask at this point?
Yeah, and before we get started, if anyone does actually send a DM to your personal MySpace account, if you could just send me DMs of what these people would actually look like and what those messages look like, I would greatly appreciate it.
If you find my personal MySpace, I was on a hunt for a while. I don't think it's out there, but if you do find it, congratulations. But send it along.
Yeah, that's internet gold right there. Definitely send me that link as well. So I really want Spencer Jones to be good, if for no other reason that seeing him in the outfield with Aaron Judge and the 15 games or so that Giancarlo Stanton's going to be healthy. I mean, those are that he's a big guy, 6'7". He's listed at 235. Go ahead and put me on those who would take the over on that. Might take the over on both the height and the weight, honestly. Big, strong dude. When he is going, he just looks special. Like the contact sounds different. He makes everything on a baseball field look easy. But the problem is that the swing and miss issues, they kind of started popping up in 2023. He was putting up some big numbers. People were kind of like, well, you can kind of live with that rate, but probably not much more than that. Then he struck out 200 times last year at Double-A, and now he's striking out at a very similar rate now, repeating at Double-A. It's becoming harder and harder for me to ignore because, again, you love the physical skills. The raw tools are great. It's the hit tool and being able to make contact consistently to be able to get to his other tools is what's going to matter. And if you're repeating at a level, especially like Double-A, where you're kind of against some more advanced pitching, but maybe not the highest level of competition, and you are striking out more than a third of the time, that's a problem. You mean when you get to the big leagues, you're going to be going against guys who are throwing harder and have more spin and are just better. And if you can't make contact against those guys at Double-A, I don't know again, he might hit 220 in the big leagues. Will he hit 30 home runs and maybe steal 30 bases? Maybe. I'm not really sure what I would think about a guy who's a 30-30 guy who's hitting 220, but that's kind of what we would be looking at in his case. And I think that he would get victimized by pitchers with really good stuff that threw in the strike zone because I don't have confidence that he can hit it right now. He's fun, but yeah.
I think it's unfortunate too that he, you don't want to say held the Yankees back from trade talks last year. And I also don't know if I want to be the one on here advocating for the Yankees should really regret not having Dylan Cease. I don't know. And hey, there are people split on his major league talent as well at this point. But sort of unilaterally holding Jones out of trade talks stung them last offseason, regardless of the target. And then they watched him repeat those tough K issues last year at Double-A, and then now repeating Double-A, and the issues have persisted. So if you can get him to the majors, you could zap him there, and he hits 220 and goes 30-30, and you get to see prime Joey Gallo instead of whatever version of Joey Gallo the Yankees actually had, then I think you'd be semi-satisfied with that, and probably, as you watch the moonshots, not be thinking about those trade regrets so much. I'm not sure if Dylan Cease is the difference between the Yankees winning or losing the World Series last year, for example. Give me truth serum, I would say he is not. But still, drawing the line in the sand just because you want development success stories with these super talented toolsy players, maybe not the greatest idea given Jones's trajectory since then.
I understand the compulsion, though, right? You don't want to be the team or the executive that gives up on a guy who ends up being a star. You know what I mean? For example, we have a Padres fan in the chat right now. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a guy who had some questions early on in his minor league career. He did not start his career with the Padres. He got traded to them by the White Sox. And again, you don't want to be the team like, wow, look at the White Sox now. We're losing 120 games a year, and we could have had Fernando Tatis Jr. We could have done all these other things. Now, there's a lot of problems with the White Sox. It's not just trading away Fernando Tatis Jr. It takes a special kind of incompetence to get where they're at. But at the same time, you don't see a lot of those trades with really high-end, high tools prospects unless they have a flaw that's probably more glaring than Spencer Jones' strikeout issues right now as a result. So I understand the compulsion because we have never seen prospects valued as much as they are in trade talks right now. But at the same time, I tend to agree that in his case, they might have been treating him as a little bit too precious.
Want to pivot to another buzzworthy top pick here in Chase Burns, who early season numbers indicate that, okay, we're off to an interesting start. Zahir Hope took him deep on Friday. No big deal. He does that to a lot of people. But he has piled up the whiffs in cold weather despite a semi-pedestrian start. 0-2, 3.09 ERA. Obviously, that'll work. That'll play. Pitcher wins. We're not looking at these days. But where are you at on him, especially because at that point in the draft last year, I think many of us were surprised the Reds went pitcher over the offensive options, and somebody who was picked pretty close behind him is also now in the major leagues, and one of them is relegated to Colorado instead of being in an interesting environment in Cincinnati. So where are you at on Chase Burns after watching this unfold a little bit?
I love Chase Burns, honestly. Again, it's only 3 starts. It's only, 11.2 innings, and he had the one start where the Dodgers guys got to him. Mm-hmm. So in his other 2 starts, he was really good. I believe the numbers are 20 strikeouts to 5 walks in those 11.2 innings. You'll take those swing and miss numbers. Again, if a guy runs it, he's a power pitcher. He's a guy who can throw up triple digits. It's a power slider. If he hangs that power slider, or if he throws a fastball that's a little too straight and someone makes contact with it, it's going to go a long way. So he's going to have starts like that where he's just going to, a couple home runs are going to make his line look a lot worse than it actually is. But I love the stuff. I think that sliders, again, if you were making a list of the top 5 pitches in minor league baseball right now, The sliders probably needs to be on the list for Chase Burns. And then, the heater, I'm a little bit more lukewarm on because he throws really hard and makes it work, but it's also pretty straight, doesn't have a lot of ride on it, doesn't have, action to either side that really kind of gets me excited, which makes it much more hittable than it probably should be at 99 or 100 miles an hour. But when you're throwing that hard, you can kind of get away with it. I love the stuff. The fit in Cincinnati is certainly interesting. Any pitcher that's looking to pitch in Cincinnati is going to have their hands full with the Great American Ballpark. It took a lot of guts to pick him over Charlie Condon in that draft. If it had been my decision, I would have picked, just based on performance and upside, I would have probably picked Condon 1-1 overall in that last year's draft class. But that move's looking pretty smart. Burns has just been really good, and Cincinnati knows that they're going to have to kind of put together a pretty strong pitching staff if they're going to be competitive in their ballpark. To be able to limit runs like that. And Condon, again, he's hurt right now. I suspect when he comes back, he'll be fine and he'll be hitting balls really far. And, if he gets to the big leagues, he might hit 50 or 60 at Coors Field. So I still like him. But right now, the move looks really good. And, again, took a lot of guts when they actually made the pick.
We want to talk about another pitcher as well, Cade Horton, who was selected really high at the time, given his injury history. Missed time last year as well. Jordan Wicks just went down for the Cubs and said night and day, year over year. Like, the guy I'm seeing this year is the Cade Horton that we know the Cubs fell in love with. Versus last year, maybe the look in his eyes wasn't what you were hoping for. Like, it can sometimes be that simple where you just perceive, as someone is battling injuries and trying to get back to the level they know they can reach, you can just see it behind their eyes. Like, they're not ready. Like, they're missing that final mental step and that adjustment of getting back to who they really are. What are your thoughts on a weird early start to the year for Cade Horton, where the dominant version appears to be back? The stuff is there, but he's still lacking some pretty important traits.
Yeah, Horton's been on my radar for a while, and he's always been kind of weird. He probably would have been a top 2 round pick out of high school as a two-way player, but had a commitment that would involve baseball and football to Oklahoma, and that was just never something that he was going to break. So he shows up to campus, immediately has Tommy John surgery, and we don't really hear much about him until his sophomore year College World Series. And all of a sudden, he's back with a vengeance, throwing these, high 90s fastballs and sliders that no one can hit, and they had a deep run in the College World Series last year. I remember during that draft class, I was having a brief conversation with a friend of the show, Jim Callis, talking about Horton, kind of like, I was just trying to pick what his brain as to what he thought about him, because, again, he had been hurt, little track record in college, but the stuff looked so good. And again, there was like some hesitation on kind of both of our parts, but I asked him who had the best fastball in the draft class, and he said probably Horton. And then I said, who has the best slider in the draft class? And he said probably Horton. And I'm like, well, I guess that means he's probably getting picked in the first round, right? Like, it doesn't really matter after that. Like, and again, he ended up being a top 10 pick by the Cubs. But again, those injury concerns were real, especially a lack of track record. You just don't know how he's going to continue to hold up to a starter workload. He just didn't throw the innings in college to see if he could hold up. And then last year, all of a sudden he has these shoulder problems. He only makes 9 starts. I'm sure that kind of contributed to kind of how he felt and how he was acting toward it, because I'm certain he didn't look right, and he certainly didn't play particularly well or long. So perhaps that injury was something that was going on all year long and was kind of stressing him out. But again, 1.46 ERA through his first 3 starts right now. The command needs some work. A lot of walks in that short period of time coming back from that shoulder issue, but he's still missing a ton of bats. The fastball and slider, again, they're really, really good pitches. So I think that once he kind of refines his command, knocks that rust off, he'll be fine. I will say that anytime there's a pitcher's shoulder involved, I am thoroughly spooked, because even when a guy doesn't have to go have surgery on it, a lot of times it lingers throughout the year, and then a year or two later it ends up becoming a larger problem that needs intervention. And I hope that's not the case with Horton, but at the same time, the shoulders are particularly spooky for me.
Agreed. It's sort of the number one. I mean, I don't think we're alone here. The number one indicator I look at where I go, okay, if I'm eyeing a prospect in trade talks, or if I'm looking at maybe someone who I'm hoping can get back to a level that they previously been at. Like, Luis Gil goes down with some sort of shoulder injury, and my first inclination is like, yeah, okay, great. Like, deliver the worst, I'll prepare for it. And then, okay, anything else is sort of a bit of a, it helps you out to hear any other form of news. Going to go to a user question before we head to our next segment. Just Smokey Gator asking about CJ Kayfus. And I do think it's funny to, look, nobody is hitting the cover off the ball perhaps more than Kayfus right now at AA Akron, hitting, only hitting 429 with a 1240 OPS. You'll take that. By the way, I would say that works fine. That'll work. The third rounder out of Miami. You got Colin Manzardo in Cleveland. So they have sort of a lefty swinging first base type. But you're always looking for more bats in Cleveland, and with Chase DeLauder sliding down the pyramid at this point in time, maybe Kayfus slides up, or maybe he is trade bait. Curious if you have any additional thoughts there.
Maybe trade bait's being, if it's the Guardians, trade bait might be the easiest thing because they might have to target a guy who has a salary that kind of works in their parameters, and that might limit, what their market is and how much they have to pay. Kayfus was really good last year too. There was a 900 OPS last year, so it's not like he's a complete pop-up guy. First base DH profile, the path is a little bit tricky to playing time with the Guardians right now. I would like to see him get an opportunity. Who knows? Maybe they give him some playing time in left field or something like that in the minor leagues, and if he isn't completely embarrassing, they'll just take what he can give him defensively and let him just mash in the big leagues. That's kind of the only real takeaway I have, other than, he's hitting really well. Again, defensively, it's kind of a bit of a problem, in terms of making it work with the organization, but it feels like something they should at least try.
We thank you for your question. Let's go to the risers and fallers from the last week, and the names, a couple of the names you wanted to talk about who are red hot have something in common, although they no longer share an organization. And I think a lot of fans in the AL East probably thank their previous team for splitting them up.
Okay, I promise I didn't do it this way on purpose. Okay, this is not what I was attempting to do. But there are a couple of Red Sox names, or at least former ones, that we're going to be talking about first. Braden Montgomery is a guy who I liked a lot, and I didn't know if I really understood why he fell in the draft, kind of towards the periphery of the top 10 versus like a potential 1-1 guy. I understand that he had the ankle injury, but if you get picked that high, you don't care about the injury, in which case he probably should have gone higher. And if the ankle injury was actually a problem on medicals, then he probably should have gone lower. So it seemed like a weird place to end up taking him as kind of like this all-around super toolsy, can do a lot of things on a baseball field thing, unless there was kind of some uncertainty with that injury of his. Again, key piece in the Garrett Crochet trade. I liked him a lot. He was a really good pickup for the White Sox. Last week, 6 for 17, 6 runs, 2 homers, 3 stolen bases, 6 walks, only struck out once. He was, again, one of those weeks where you're like, okay, this guy might be moving up through the system in a hurry. We also have Roman Anthony, who I think we just talk about on every podcast at this point. Obviously, being one of those big three for the Red Sox is going to be a guy that we're going to keep an eye on. And last week, again, slash 304, 448, 609, hit 2 home runs, stole a base, more walks than strikeouts. I don't know what else the guy can do to prove himself to be ready for a big league spot, but I understand that in Boston specifically, they're already they don't have playing time for Masataka Yoshida right now, and Roman Anthony's just sitting there waiting for an opportunity now. So that's more of a bit of a roster mess, but he's playing really well. And my hesitance earlier to kind of rush him to the big leagues, because again, he hadn't been really hitting the cover off the ball to start the year. That's kind of becoming less of an issue because he just has been kind of consistently hitting the ball ever since, and it seems like that shoulder soreness that he's been dealing with is gone. And the last riser I have is a name that I didn't expect to say, and frankly, saying anything nice about a Phillies prospect is deeply problematic for me. But Arun Escobar has been legitimately really good. Had a really good year last year in rookie ball. He just does a lot of things well. He doesn't have a standout tool. He's not a burner type. He's kind of a stocky guy. Makes good contact, but the power can sometimes show up, but not consistently. He just plays well. I'm not sure where he ends up defensively. I would kind of like him as the super utility role that gets a lot of playing time and who can flat out hit. And last week, he might have had the best week of any minor leaguer in this period when he went something like 478, 500, 826, 2 homers. I mean, again, just hit a bunch. And he's a guy that, again, I think he's like a top 15 prospect for the Phillies right now. Based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, we might want to expect that that's going to go up a little bit higher.
I'm opening the window down here on the shore, and I'm letting the Philly fans hear that praise, but I'm not letting them see your jersey, so you're good.
I mean, I feel dirty saying it, but at the same time, game recognized game, and he played extraordinarily well last week and deserves all the credit in the world.
Well, that's what we do here. It's an honest podcast. We don't cram the teams that we hate into the fallers section. We just try to be earnest with you, the viewer and the listener. So who do you have your eyes on who's maybe slipping a little bit in recent days?
I was so convinced that Carson Williams was going to like be in the big leagues playing shortstop for Tampa very early this season. He's probably already a Gold Glove shortstop right now defensively. That hasn't changed. He's a fantastic defender, probably the best defender in the minor leagues. There's a couple of guys who might have something to say about that, but it's you'd have to really convince me that it's not Carson Williams. But he was also hitting, 260, 270, 280, showing some things at the plate. And this year, he has just not. 570, 563 OPS with a lot of strikeouts in AAA so far to start the season. When you have those kinds of swing and miss issues against more advanced pitching, and kind of when you have that opportunity right in front of you to potentially, get a spot in the big leagues, and you sort of fall on your face, it's an immediate like, wait a minute, is it just nerves that he knows that he has a chance, or is it the level of competition is too much for him and he's not going to hit? Because with his defensive ability, he doesn't have to hit a lot. If he was hitting 250 right now, people would be wondering if he's going to get called up. But he's hitting like 163 or something like that, which is not good. So I, again, kind of question what's going on with him. The strikeouts are probably the most particularly concerning thing for me. I still think he ends up in the major leagues. The glove's too good, but at the same time, he's a guy that's kind of a guy I'm concerned about. The other guy is Noah Schultz, who I love as kind of a person that exists, like 6'10", has been comped to a young Randy Johnson, which is kind of wild. And it's not just the height. If you put a goatee and a mullet on that man, it's kind of spitting image stuff. Like, I wonder if Randy had made a trip down to where the Schultzes were living at some point. But again, ERA close to 5 through 3 starts, not great. Anyone that's like long limbs, long levers, big bodied, it's really hard to repeat your command. Your command. It just is. There's more physically involved to like doing the same thing over and over again. And when you see a guy start like missing the zone, not really pounding it, especially with big power stuff like he has, you still have to hit spots. And when you're yanking it, or you're like, it's just harder. It's harder for a guy over 6'5" just to keep his balance, but making his delivery. And it seems right now that he doesn't have everything locked in with his delivery. I hope it works out, because if it works out, again, he's a top 20 prospect in baseball right now. So the ceiling is incredibly high with this kid. But at the same time, I'm a little bit more bearish on him than I was, just because it doesn't seem like everything's quite going the way he was planning on this year.
One final segment before we get to a couple of your questions and sign off as well. Got to give credit where it's due to the A's, the Sacramento baseball team, for bringing Nick Kurtz to the big leagues. 4th overall pick last year. I think a lot of us thought he was going to slip to Pittsburgh, especially considering their long-term need for a first baseman. The A's said, no, we're going to do this instead. And the Pirates said, okay, we'll take Connor Griffin, maybe the best high schooler in the draft. So no big deal. But Kurtz comes up to the A's, joins Jacob Wilson, joins Max Muncy, joins that surprisingly frisky youth movement in Sacramento. And the power potential, we were talking last week, like, hey, if they decide to do this by June, there's a chance he just hits 29 home runs from June through the end of the year anyway, and puts himself in a Rookie of the Year conversation. He's up before the end of April. What say you? Celebrate his arrival, but is there a possibility of maybe stealing a Rookie of the Year, especially given the ballpark he's in? It's a PCL stadium.
It is a PCL stadium. The power is special with Kurtz. It's easy. And I do like that. And he's also a guy who is willing to be patient and wait for his pitch. Like, he might not, again, he might hit 270, 280, something like that in like kind of a peak outcome scenario, but he'll draw a bunch of walks because no one wants to throw like anything particularly over the heart of the plate to him unless they absolutely have to, or if it's a mistake, obviously. And again, I don't think 35 homers plus for him in his rookie year is like that crazy to think given the situation. Now, I am surprised that this happened. I just didn't have any indication whatsoever that the A's were in much of a hurry to do anything until they moved to Vegas. But I guess they figured out that, to build some sort of fan base and excitement for that team going to Vegas, they're going to have to actually have a pretty decent team. And Kurtz is a good place to start. Could I see him stealing Rookie of the Year? Yes. I if for no other reason that the kind of the candidates that we thought were going to be the standout candidates in the AL so far this year haven't been overly, their case is not overwhelming at the moment. So a guy coming in with a strong season is going to have a real shot. And anyone that carries a bat is going to have a bit of a advantage over, arms, just because historically that's just what the writers vote for. They just write for the best rookie bats usually. To win as an arm, you have to be really good. Now, as far as my expectations, I was very tempted just to say I think he's going to hit a home run in his first night. They are against a lefty tonight. However, it might be the worst lefty in the league in Patrick Corbin. So do I think he's going to hit a home run? He might not, but I would bet on him getting an extra base hit tonight. I don't. Again, Corbin's pretty much washed. I'm frankly surprised that the Rangers signed him. He's been okay so far, but I mean, Kurtz is going to be amped up. The 9 A's fans there are going to be amped up. I think that he's going to at least do some damage tonight. Whether or not he does enough overall to stick around, I don't think his hit tool is like completely unimpeachable. So he might struggle over a 2 or 3 week stint, maybe not be quite ready, and get sent back down for whatever reason. But at the same time, I think that tonight he could do something pretty fun. And he's going to do something with one pitch that doesn't make any sense while he's up. It's going to be like some low and away fastball that he hits 450 feet, and has everyone wondering how that happened. That will happen.
Yeah, I'm betting on him digging out something low as well and scooping it for a home run in his first series. Maybe not today, but it's quite possible. And we've got our eyes on it anyway. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Tirso Ornelas got a mention in the comments, as he often does. How long do we think he's going to stay up? Feels like just the duration of the Hayward absence to me. Like, I don't know if this is a long-term thing, but I am glad that the Padres are giving someone whose bat at the AAA level deserves it a look at the big league level, at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, Merrill's kind of the biggest X factor in terms of like outfield playing time and how the lineup's going to look out. So, and I have given up trying to predict hamstring injuries. Sometimes I think like it looks bad, and then they're just on the field 2 days later. And then there's guys who like finish the rest of the game and then end up missing 3 months because their hamstring's bothering them. So, we'll see what's going on with Merrill, but beyond that, it's hard to kind of predict beyond playing time for Tirso beyond that.
Yeah, sometimes Damian Lillard just shows up in game 2 of a first-round playoff series, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's all solved. So appreciate the questions, of course. Zahir Hope question as well from Showtime LA. Is he polarizing at this point? I feel like he's just rising fairly consistently throughout, all metrics, and the Dodgers probably got them. I love keeping track of that Zahir Hope, Jackson Ferris for Michael Busch trade. One of the sneaky, underrated, fun trades of last year that helped everybody and is probably going to help the Dodgers for a while. Yeah,
Michael Busch has been good. I think that Zahir Hope's just kind of emerging in front of people's eyes. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's polarizing. If you like Zahir now, you're not going to like encounter 20 Zahir Hope haters from last year or the year before or something like that. He just wasn't that well known, hadn't really kind of established himself yet. But now, I mean, again, one of the better prospects in baseball. That's a name you circle.
Yep. And also shout out again, right before we leave, the Milwaukee Brewers doing what they had to do, promoting Caleb Durbin, promoting Craig Yoho. Like, hey, we didn't have to wait very long. April 22nd, both guys are in the big leagues, both ultra unique modern players. The Brewers maybe have one of the odder collections of individual, completely unique tools at this point. And I think if you're not watching them in the NL Central, it's time to.
It's like the island of misfit toys, and it's amazing. Obviously, we've talked about Durbin on this podcast before. I really like him a lot. I'm glad he had a good debut. Got a couple hits. He is a difference maker, just a very weird one. And then, I mean, Craig Yoho, that change up. I hope he sticks because that's your closer of the future right there. I feel very confident in saying that. No shade meant for Miguel or any of those other guys. If you're an Abner Uribe fan, save your angry letters, but at the same time,
yeah, get out of my MySpace, Abner Uribe fans. Yeah. What are you doing?
But I mean, he's going to be a dude for sure.
I think they're both dudes. We appreciate everybody for joining us today on the show, noon Eastern time, and on all podcast platforms afterwards. Join the channel. See you in the Discord. You can ask Eric questions between shows, as well as Robert Murray and myself. Subscribe if you have not. That's the first step on either YouTube or podcast platforms, or both, whatever you do best, whatever you prefer. Subscribe to the Moonshot as well. You'll get the email delivered right to your inbox, or visit the Baseball Insiders feed on fansided.com. That's fansided.com/baseball-insiders for Eric's prospect insight, Robert's news and notes, and some assorted nonsense from yours truly, Eric. We will be right back here next Tuesday, talking prospects again, recapping the week and finding our angles. Until then, we will see everybody on the flip side a week from today.